Hello, welcome back to the Toffee YouTube channel, your source for all things Everton. My name is Thomas, and this is your opposition view. It's Norwich at home, 3 p.m. Saturday, and we've got someone on to tell us all about it. It's Chris Reeve from Talk Norwich City. How are you doing? Thank you for coming on.
No worries. Thank you ever so much. It's an absolute pleasure. This is a fantastic channel. I'm really looking forward to the conversation with you. Just like I'm really excited for the game at the weekend.
Thank you very much. Not sure if Everton fans are so excited. It's pretty doom and gloom at the moment, but similar story. Yeah, we'll start straight away with your season so far. Record so far: 2 wins, 1 draw, 9 defeats in 12 league games. Not ideal. You currently sat in 20th. What's your thoughts on the season generally? What's going on? Just give us a quick summary for someone who, I'm going to admit I don't watch that many Norwich games. Let's just start off there.
No, for sure. Norwich went into the Premier League and we're punching well above our weight. We really are. We are probably the favourites to go down. We're very much the underdogs. We've spent the least amount of money by a long shot. You've got Aston Villa spending at least 40 million, at least. And Norwich have spent £750,000 for a player that's not even starting at the moment. So for Norwich City Football Club and the fans, it's very much a season of let's see what we can do. And at the moment, as things stand, it's disappointing. But we've got 2 wins under our belt, a very, very convincing performance against Newcastle at home, and of course, a very, very, very famous victory against Manchester City at home in front of our fans. And we always scalp one of the big boys when we're up. So quite frankly, from my point of view, I'm okay with it. But it's got to the point now where we need to start picking up points, and to do it away to Everton, it's going to be a real tough ask.
Yeah, definitely, because made quite the explosive start of the season. Obviously, came straight up. I think it was Liverpool the first game. Did lose 4-0 in the end, but the football you play in that game, I think everyone kind of sat up and were like, these are a decent side. They're not afraid to come and play football. Obviously, they haven't spent as much as Villa. Villa kind of grabbed the headline, spend a lot. Obviously, it hasn't quite gone to plan so far. So you got that win against City. You got the win against Newcastle, which I was a fan of. I'm from Gateshead, which is just next to Newcastle, so all my mates are from there. And that they were absolutely fuming about that, definitely. The manager, Daniel Farke, he's been at Norwich for 2, almost 3 years now. What's your thoughts on him? Is it his fault it's not working? And would you sack him if Norwich end up going down?
Absolutely not. Look, Daniel Farke's relationship with the supporters is fantastic. Yes, it will be tested in the coming games if we don't start picking up points. Don't forget that we won the league last season, and Norwich City fans would have taken a playoff place. So to actually go on and win the league for Norwich is amazing, considering the amount of expenditure that we've spent on the squad. Will we sack him even if we go down? I highly doubt it. And am I pleased about that? Absolutely I am. I'm very proud of the fact that Norwich City is now in a place where we're not chopping and changing managers all the time. I believe that that's a problem with the modern game. I think that if you don't give a manager the right resource and time to develop its own playing culture, and B, a kind of like a style of football and an affiliation with the supporters, and I think that's so super important. That's one of the issues with the modern game. Watford have been winging it for years, haven't they? The way that they just chop and change managers and they just about survive. And you could say, well, yeah, but it worked. Well, yeah, I agree with that, but morally, I think it's wrong, and I don't think that's the way football should be. So yes, it will be a big test for Daniel Farke. Do I think it's his fault? No, he's learned a lot of lessons already. He's making subs earlier. We are able now to adapt our tactics depending on the opposition that we're playing. But I'm really proud of the fact that Daniel Farke sticks to his philosophy. We'll go out and attack games and try and put the pressure on the opposition, which in the Championship worked wonders, and in the Premier League has worked, but not worked consistently yet.
Yeah, well, you mentioned there about his tactical flexibility. I think that's something, especially as an Everton fan, we all want. 4-2-3-1 as Marco Silva, absolute nightmare every game. Obviously, there's a lot of rumours about, is Marco Silva going to get sacked? It seems that every game he seems to about to be sacked. He manages to pull up a win. Kind of quite contrasting Everton and Norwich, though. Not as in, like, obviously, if you look at the whole table, we're doing all right. But obviously, it's disappointing. We should have been much higher. And there's a lot of talk about Marco Silva being sacked. There's been times where I definitely think he should have been sacked because he refuses to change his tactics. And, well, he refuses to play Moise Kean, who's meant to be one of the most exciting players in Europe. So
I agree. Yeah.
I definitely think it was interesting there that you think Daniel Farke shouldn't be sacked because he is tactically flexible. It's not like he's going in every game really naively saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna we're gonna play this, and it doesn't go wrong, it doesn't go right. Sorry, we're just gonna do it again." I think that's definitely what we're looking for. I wish we had a manager who actually changed tactics. I think obviously Silva was forced to recently because of the horrific injury to Andre Gomez, but other than that, he honestly just refuses to not play the 4-2-3-1 for some reason.
I think the key difference is, and I can understand and I completely empathise with Everton supporters at the moment, because I would be really pissed off. I really would. I think that you've got a squad full to the brim of talent, real talent that should be, doing a lot better. And actually, you know what? If you lose games of football, but it's entertaining, you kind of take it because it's the entertainment industry at the end of the day. But you're not grinding out as many results, but if you are, it's just not very pretty. And I think that Everton are capable of much more. You speak of Keane, Sigurdsson, of course. You've got some exceptional players in the Everton squad that Norwich fans are extremely envious of. And yeah, I would be annoyed if I was an Everton fan as well. I completely empathise with you. Daniel Farke doesn't have the resource that Everton have. Considering your wage bill and stuff, yeah, I would expect Everton to be doing better than they are. And arguably, yes, that is the manager's fault. And actually, if you lose to Norwich at the weekend, I would go as far as saying, make that change, because at the moment we are in the worst form that we've been in. Our confidence is on the floor. So many injuries as well. So Everton need to take advantage of this opportunity, and if they don't, 100% the Everton fans will be engines of Silva.
Yeah, it's quite an infamous phrase that, though. It's kind of time for Everton. If there's ever a team that's struggling to form, all you have to do is come to Goodison Park and you'll pick up some points along the way. We love to do it. You mentioned, we kind of spoke briefly there about our season in general. Last time Everton Norwich played, 2-0 defeat on the 20th of September 2016. Stephen Naismith scored that game. Just kind of, he was a bit of a cult hero at Everton. He was never the most flashy player, he was never the most exciting. He had a great hat-trick against Chelsea, I think it was once. Unbelievable. He played in a team like Samuel Eto'o.
That was what we bought him for. You must have right off. That was what we bought.
He was brilliant. But I've heard things, rumours, some Norwich fans weren't always a fan of him. We were always a fan of him. He was never the best player, but were Norwich fans always happy with Stephen Naismith before he left?
Well, first of all, I would actually like to say, come back to your first part of the question before I do Naismith. I really like Everton as a football club, and I've really enjoyed playing Everton. Actually, if you look back through the history, the other way round, which is, of course, Everton beat Norwich on most occasions, but famously, Ricky Van Wolfswinkel, who only ever scored one goal in the league for Norwich, scored against Everton on the opening day of the season. What a header it was. And then, of course, we've beaten Everton at Goodison Park before, Sebastian Bassong, in the dying embers of the game. So I always enjoy playing Everton, and I do really respect Everton as a football club, and I wanted to sandwich that in for you guys. I really do. I genuinely mean it. I'm not just saying it. And in terms of Stephen Naismith, what a player for Everton. What a fantastic servant. I think that he's super intelligent, and that's the best part of Stephen Naismith's game. 95% of Norwich fans don't like him. The reason why is he didn't deliver at the highest level. We bought him in, we took a gamble, we spent a lot of money on him. Norwich don't really have 8 million, and our chief exec at the time chucked a load of money at Stephen Naismith. And on paper, in fairness, it should have worked, but it didn't work, which was a real sad. I mean, he actually scored. He scored against Liverpool. On I believe it might have been his debut for Norwich, and we were thinking, cool, blimey, this could really work. But yeah, I think it's a shame because I like Stephen as a person. I think he's fantastic, the work that he does for charity, the affiliation that he has with Everton fans. What a great guy, but for Norwich it just didn't work, sadly.
Yeah. Well, I always enjoyed watching him. He kind of came down from Scotland as Nikita Jelavic did. We always seem to have a decent bit of success with players we kind of bring down from Scotland and see what they're like. We did seem to unearth a bit of a gem. Obviously, it didn't quite work for when he moved to you. Moving on, this isn't the Stephen Naismith review, sadly. We should devote a whole video to that. But moving on, of course, hasn't been one of the best seasons so far for Norwich. But in terms of standout players, it always seems like there's a Norwich player grabbing the headlines, despite the results not coming in for you. Who kind of have been the standout players so far?
Well, absolutely, Teemu Pukki. Arguably definitely the greatest free transfer in Championship history. But if he continues to deliver in the form of his opening games, arguably one of the greatest free transfers in the Premier League, and certainly in the last few years. I mean, there's been some fantastic free transfers for sure, and I'm not saying he's the best, but he has the capability of being the best. Completely unknown prospect. Bought him into the football club with not really any expectation. And the fans were like, who the hell is this guy? Teemu Pukki. Like, people couldn't even pronounce his name properly because we're Root Narthik boys and we don't really get things right. But he came in and he delivered and he delivered and he delivered and he just kept scoring. And the special thing about Teemu Pukki is, again, you think about Stephen Naismith, Teemu Pukki's intelligence off the ball, creating opportunities for others, bringing the likes of Todd Cantwell into play, bringing the likes of Anel Hernandez down the wing, who you need to watch out for, by the way, at the weekend, into play. And Teemu Pukki, when he gets chances, he more or less hits the target. And yes, in the last few games he has had a drought, but overall an exceptional start to the campaign. That's really, arguably we've stolen the hearts of a lot of Premier League fans, really, as a neutral, because we are punching above our weight. And Teemu Pukki's been flying the flag. He's a legend for Finland. He single-handedly took them into their first ever major tournament very recently as well. He's a man in form. Recently scored 2, and it's one of those things where I think that if you don't mark him, you're in trouble.
Yeah, definitely. I think I saw a rumor today that I think Fenerbahce were going to launch a move for him in January, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It was an interesting rumor though, because I don't think you're going to let him go anytime soon, really. There's a few players I've kind of acknowledged. Buendia, I think he's quite high on the assist chart. He seems like quite a creative player, quite dangerous for us as well. Max Aarons, I've been a fan of. Pick him up on Football Manager every now and then. He's a great sign to get.
Cracking young player.
So much potential for him, but unluckily for him, you look at the England team, it's Trent Alexander-Arnold, it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka, it's Kyle Walker. It's an awful time to be an England right back because there's just so many brilliant England right backs.
For sure.
Maybe if he's on the left, he could challenge Ben Chilwell, but obviously he does kind of seem to be only on the right at the moment.
Yeah.
Other than that, before we move on to the actual game, to find the final introduction questions, we're 6 questions in. If you could have one Everton player in your team at the moment, who would it be and why?
Wow. Great question. Fantastic question. Who have you got? Who's your centre-back at the moment?
Yerry Mina is very, very good centre-back at the moment. Mason Holgate, his partner.
We desperately need a centre-back, but I must say I've always been a fan of Sigurdsson. He's one of those players that can just turn it on whenever and, strike a ball and have that magic moment and, don't really have that type of player at the moment that will just shoot from distance. We're very much a team that will try and pass our way into the net. We don't really shoot on sight. We don't do that. And so Sigurdsson for me is an exceptional player that I would love to have in the Norwich team.
Yeah, very interesting. I'd love if Max Aarons came to Everton. We've got John Joe Kenny, who's out on loan at Schalke. We don't know if he's going to become anything. We've got Coleman, who's something like 56 this year, so we don't know what's going to happen to him. And we've got Sidibe, who's still a bit of an unknown prospect. So I'd love if we had Max Aarons. We don't have.
I'll do your deal. You can have Max Aarons. You can have him for 50 million. How about that?
I trade him for Sigurdsson. I can't stand Sigurdsson most of the time, so you can keep. Oh, it's an interesting Everton debate because he slows the game down and he kind of forces us to play a 4-2-3-1 because he is kind of a traditional number 10. So if we want to start playing 4-3-3 and he doesn't want to come back into the 3, he's kind of stopping us. So it's an interesting debate. He hasn't actually been playing that much recently. He was dropped for Iwobi to play in the number 10 role, which is interesting. But I hear a lot of opposition fans saying they like Sigurdsson. Honestly, if you have to watch him every single week like we do,
frustrating.
He gets on your nerves sometimes. He's kind of one of those players that he's brilliant, but he's never quite reached the very top. Obviously, he didn't do great for Spurs. Then he went to Swansea. He was brilliant at Swansea, but then again, he was in quite a poor side at Swansea. He's come to us. Sure. He's a brilliant player. 45 million, was it worth it? It's an interesting question, but I feel he's never quite really pushed to be as good as he can be. He had a very good season last season, don't get me wrong. But if I was an opposition fan, I probably wouldn't be looking for Gylfi Sigurdsson. But obviously that's your opinion. It's not a question for me. Now on to the game. We spoke about a few of the Norwich players. I don't know Norwich's team inside and out. I know Grant Hanley, the Scottish PK. I know about him from his time at Newcastle. But possible lineup and formation that we'll probably expect to see at the weekend.
Well, obviously you're going to be coming up against Teemu Pukki up top. Tim Krul, very experienced goalkeeper in between the sticks. You're going to, he's been. It sounds strange because although we're bottom, he's been in exceptional form. And if it wasn't for Tim, we would have been losing games 4-5, 6-0 on multiple occasions this season. So he's been impressive. We've currently. Well, the team news as this is being recorded isn't officially announced, so it's tough to give you the exact team. But what I would say is that there is some injury news around Jamal Lewis, who's one of our young defenders at the moment. And that's really worrying because we don't really have the backup. We might end up having to play Max on the other side, which isn't ideal for us. You're definitely going to have Ben Godfrey to come up against the centre-back, rumoured, of course, for a transfer to Manchester United. Rio Ferdinand's agent. Your midfield is more than likely going to be made up of Emi Buendia, who of course is up there with the assists, although funny you should speak about Sigurdsson because Norwich fans are a little bit frustrated with Emi at the moment, and it's because of the fact that we know his potential, we know how good he is, and at the moment we're not seeing enough end product from him. So those are the key players that you'll see. There are going to be some chops and changes. But what I would say from an Everton point of view is that if you put us under pressure, and what the teams that have done better against us this season have bullied us off the ball. The likes of Burnley, West Ham kicked the shit out of us, pardon my French, but they really did. And then, by the way, you're not going to be monetized for this anymore, sorry. This is what you get for having me on. But West Ham bullied us, Burnley bullied us, and for them, it was easy because as soon as they bullied us and put us under pressure and stuck the ball in the back of the net early doors, it was more or less game over. So from an Everton point of view, I'd be wanting to expose our defence as soon as possible. Obviously, I hope you don't. If you sit back in this game and invite us on to play, we could steal something.
It's kind of typical Everton. I wouldn't say we're a particularly bullying team, which nobody likes to say at the moment. Nobody seems to be kind of fighting for it, which is frustrating. And obviously, when you do come up against sides that are good on the ball, they are good at possession play, we don't always do well against them because we're not willing to kind of just make it scrappy. Kind of, we still want to play our game. We also don't like teams that sit back. So
we're not going to sit back, don't you worry.
I'm not concerned about that. You definitely. I think when teams come at us, sometimes it works in our favour. We played City, we lost 3-1, but obviously they naturally came at us, and we do better on the break because we cannot break teams down. So I think it will be an interesting game, this, because we can't break teams down. You're not looking to be broken down. So I think it could be an interesting attacking game. Hopefully. We never know if we're going to come out attacking or not, really.
From an Everton point of view, the key battle is definitely Iwobi versus Max Aarons, for certain. If he wins that battle, it's going to be an Everton win. But for Max to have an off game is very rare. So I think I certainly think it'll be a very entertaining game. I'm saying this now, it'll probably be blooming 0-0, but I do think that there'll be goals, definitely +3 goals, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, that's for sure.
You just mentioned that I think there's going to be +3 goals. I don't know if you're a man who likes to make actual score predictions, but actual score prediction, have you got anything?
Yeah, no, by all means. Yeah, I love a score prediction, more or less because I get them wrong every time when I get abused for it. Yeah. And I always say these two things, what my head says and what my heart says. Now, my heart says it will absolutely shithouse a 1-0 win, which will be superb. But my head says this has got 3-1 Everton written all over it.
That's very interesting. And final question, it's not Everton related, it's not Norwich related. We always like to ask this one. What's your favourite film and why?
Absolutely love Gladiator. Classic.
Brilliant.
So
brilliant film.
Action-packed, absolutely superb, start to finish, tugs on the heartstrings. If you haven't seen it, come on.
Oh, it's a great soundtrack. It's a brilliant film. I do enjoy it a lot.
True.
So thank you for coming on.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for speaking to us. I hope you're not too happy on Saturday, though. I'm not going to make a prediction because I hate making predictions because I I never get them even close to right. I can't even get the right result, never mind the right score. So be sure to check out all of Chris and Talk Norwich City's information in the description below. His username will probably just be below his face, just on one of these sides of me. I can never get that right either. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, great discussion, and let's hope for an Everton 3 points on Saturday. So thank you. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.